everyone, I am your astrologer Wonder Girl, taking you to new heights. Here is your daily forecast for the day of Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. Now before we get started, two things. Your weeklies will be coming up very soon, just a comedy of errors and other things today, but they should be up first thing in the morning. The second thing I want to mention, I also decided last minute to do a webinar for the new moon in Gemini on Wednesday, June 13th, where I'll talk about what's going on with the moon, as well as I'll break it down by each sign, what's going on for your sign specifically, and then of course you can ask me questions as well if you're interested in that at the link down below in my description box. It is on sale for my birthday, so hopefully that helps. I'm planning on doing the live webinar on Wednesday, yes, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time and 9:30 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who are interested, I definitely see. I mean, this is the first new moon in Gemini since Sagittarius. Saturn left Sagittarius. Sorry, it's late when I'm filming this, so my head's a little fuzzy, but this is the first new moon in Gemini since Saturn left Sagittarius. That to me makes it very, very important because these signs are opposites, so they're intimately connected. With Saturn being in Sagittarius for the past few years, even though it's not there now, it's been all about exploring, learning, traveling, doing something new. That's good and all. It's good to do that, but sometimes, even if it's hard, but sometimes you need to integrate the things that you learn. You need to get different perspectives on them. You need to put them in their place logically, make them more familiar. And I think that's what this new moon in Gemini is asking you to do, to take all these things that you've been working on and to settle in, to get more comfortable with them so that you can finally take care of some of the things in your life that you've been neglecting while Saturn was demanding other things of you, okay? So that's what we're going to talk a lot about at my webinar. If you're interested, link down below. Now, for your horoscope for today, what we have, the moon in Gemini. Got an orange color, not so bad. I was like, maybe I should go with the orange today. But we've got the moon in Gemini right here, which I think it entered the end, oh, I guess it entered early this morning. What time is it right now? I was like, this is interesting. So we've got the moon in Gemini, which it entered very, very early this morning around midnight, bringing our attention to thinking, talking, communicating, working things out in the mind. Gathering information, which comes in with the moon in Gemini. I do think today is going to be a very cerebral kind of day, especially compared to yesterday with some Pluto Scorpio things going on. All right, so anyways, we've got the moon in Gemini today at 4 a.m. Mountain Time. This moon in Gemini will then sextile Chiron. I do like that. I think that will provide a chance for lots of positive conversations that you may have, of course, with the moon in Gemini, and with Chiron and Aries. These conversations may be about yourself, about who you are, about your desires, what you want to do, about your identity. I think you could have a really good chance to either talk to other people or to do some thinking yourself to help you with Chiron overcome many insecurities, overcome many fears about who it is that you are, or to at least get a new, a better, a different perspective on some of those things so that you can start to feel more whole, so that you can start to feel better about who you are and what's going on in your life. So I do like that. Then a few hours later at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, the moon moves further through Gemini and then sextiles the North Node in Leo. Again, I also do like that. I think giving you a chance to think again in more positive ways about your future, to think about things that make you happy, to think in ways that you enjoy, to get a better perspective on life, to help you move forward. So I really do like both of these things, to be honest, early today, giving you a chance to understand your life better, to think about your life, to settle into some of the things that are going on in your life in a very positive way, to help you be happier, to understand what's next in your life, or at least how you can do tiny things to move forward. May as well help you to heal some old wounds, to get some newer, different perspectives on old wounds that I think are going to be positive. So I do like that. Then a few hours after this, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, the moon moves further through Gemini and then makes a trine over to Mars in Aquarius. And what that can bring at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, again, more conversations about your future, about where you see your life going, about maybe the things that are important to you that you want. I think really helping you to ideate, to innovate, to think about things and do in different ways, especially with Aquarius being involved, Mars being in Aquarius. Aquarius and Gemini get along very well. So I do like what's going on for a lot of today, especially the morning. Good conversations to help you overcome some of your insecurities. And then I see some positive conversations too, of thinking about the future, of coming up with unusual solutions to help you move forward, to overcome some things that are on your mind, to help you move forward, to see things differently. So I think that today, to be honest, especially the morning time, is just going to be a good day to just talk about things, to get everything out in the open, either with other people or with yourself, to explore ideas, to be a little bit more lighthearted, to see things differently without so much of the emotional baggage weighing you down. All right. So I do like it. Could be lots of conversations, but I do like to think that they will be a little bit more positive today than otherwise. All right, and that's all that's going to happen today until 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. And at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, Mountain Time, the moon's then going to move further through Gemini, and it's going to come into a square with Neptune. All right, and that's a little bit different than what's going on today. So tomorrow morning, again with the square to Neptune, could bring up some confusion about some things that's going on. Could bring up a lot of things going on emotionally behind the scenes that you need to process. Maybe there were so many conversations that came today, so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many inspirations, and then all of a sudden we get to tomorrow morning and it's like, what do I do with all of this? How do I make sense of all of this? What do I really want inside? What's going to make me feel the best out of everything that's come up? And then as you start to process things emotionally, other things come out. Well, maybe I want to do this instead, or maybe something else is, you know, really what's right for me. And so I do think that the beginning of today is good. Really most of today is good to think about things, get different perspectives, and then once tomorrow, very early tomorrow morning comes in my part of the world, it's then going to be about, okay, now I've got to like stir everything together in my pot and figure out what feels comfortable with me, what doesn't, and what I can move forward on. And then comes the challenge of giving voice to some of your feelings. And that's what brings the confusion maybe tomorrow morning, is now that you're trying to focus more emotionally after thinking logically today about things, then you have to figure out how to verbalize and how to communicate what's going on inside you. All right, but that's not going to be until tomorrow. And again, today, I think just being a good time to just be lighthearted, not worry so much about the emotional stuff, maybe like we were about yesterday, and really just work on our perspective. Okay, so that's what's happening today. Now, other stuff that we have in the background. What we've got, Mercury just moved into Cancer throughout the day. It is going to be in Cancer by the end of the day. So that's what's going to make us some of our conversations, especially towards the end of the day, that we're having lots of conversations, but they could, as the day moves on, especially as the moon moves into the square to Neptune tomorrow, our conversations could take on a little bit more of an emotional tone towards the end of the day, because I think that's when Mercury is going to move into Cancer, is as we get to the afternoon. Okay, maybe communicating a lot about our feelings, about what we need to feel more comfortable in life emotionally, to build more roots, to build more foundation in life that can support some of the things that we're thinking or talking about. All right, so I see that being a big theme. Maybe the beginning of the day, it's all about all these ideas and things and talking, and things are good, and then all of a sudden it gets to be a little bit more emotional. I don't know how I feel about this now, and let me see, can I really build a foundation on this? Can I really build my life on this and feel comfortable with these things that we've discussed? So I think there's a little bit of that switch that then starts to come towards the afternoon, thinking a lot about your feelings, communicating a lot about your feelings, which may make this new moon a little bit different for a Gemini new moon, because there's a lot of stuff I think that we're trying to process emotionally to figure out. Okay, the interesting thing about Mercury as it enters Cancer is immediately the end of today going to come into a sextile with Uranus. I like sextiles personally, so I think this is a lot of conversations that you're having about what you need to feel more comfortable, to feel more stable, to feel more secure, just and all around to feel more rooted in life, like the best that you can. That's really how I see it. You know, Cancer likes to protect itself, and so does Taurus. You know, Taurus is all about self-preservation. So I think there's like this huge aspect that starts to come in towards the end of the day when Mercury switches signs, and then you get Neptune squaring the moon, saying, okay, how can I preserve myself, protect myself, nurture myself, do these things that I need to feel better? That becomes a big focus, okay? I don't see it being a bad thing with the sextile. I actually see lots of insights positively coming in, saying, okay, now that maybe we've got some conversations going, some ideas, now that my mind's going, I'm getting a better idea of what I need to preserve myself, to feel better, to feel more comfortable. Okay, so I actually don't mind this. It's the square that Mercury makes to Chiron that can be a little hard, and then Venus over here also acting up a little bit, that are the hard things. You know, I think we get some insights about what we need to feel more comfortable in life, what we need to feel better to nurture ourselves. And then all of a sudden we get the square to Chiron saying, well, if I do this thing that makes me feel protected, then that means that I can't do other things that I want to do. That means I can't initiate. That means I can't put myself out there in the way that I want to put myself out there. And so there becomes this like really interesting thing where it's like, what's worth more to me? Is my safety, is my protection, is preserving myself, going in my shell with Cancer more important, or is initiating, doing the things that I want and need to move forward, the thing that's what you really want? Okay, and I think with this alignment, it's definitely a time for you to focus on building more of that comfort in and protecting yourself, even if it prevents you from doing the other things that you want. That could be a little bit frustrating, you know? It's like, why can't we just have both? Yeah. But that's the thing about Cancer. I guess that's why Cancer squares Aries. You know, Aries likes to do things. I don't care what it looks. I don't care how I feel. I don't care how you feel. I just need to get this done. And Cancer says, you can't just do this thing. Like, if you just do this thing you want to do, then I'm going to get hurt. Then the people that I have to look out for, they're going to get hurt. My family is going to get hurt because I did this thing without thinking. And so once Mercury moves into Cancer towards the end of the day, sextiles Uranus, squares Chiron, it then becomes, I need to do what I need to do to protect me, my family, the people that rely on me, even if that means I have to sacrifice some other things that I kind of want, or that I want to do, that are important to me. Okay, so I do think that's what comes in. On top of that, Venus then, even though it's not there yet, I think it's going to be there like the end of tomorrow after the new moon. Venus, while that's happening, is also at 29-degree Cancer, so is also thinking about protecting itself in relationships, protecting your money, I think being very important. And then Venus too is going to come into a square with Uranus and a trine to Chiron, and neither of those aspects are good. A trine to Chiron, still bad. Square to Uranus, not good. Unexpected things in relationships, that's what that's going to bring. Unexpected things in money that may not be pretty. Unexpected things with your value systems. Taurus too, both of these signs can be a little stubborn. Venus itself is stubborn, Uranus is stubborn, second house is stubborn, Venus is going to be in Leo soon, very stubborn, you know, so it's just a lot going on. I think that all of a sudden we're going to start to realize here is that we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to feel comfortable, and then we're getting hit with some of these unexpected things. Maybe we're doing something unexpected because we're realizing, you know what, this is what I need to be safe. So much for that, you know, because I realize now emotionally this is what I need. Or we ourselves are trying to feel comfortable emotionally, and then someone else does something unexpected to us that takes us out of our comfort zone. So I think it's just kind of coming into a little bit of a hard time. I really do think, to be honest, this is like the hardest week of the month. There were some hard aspects earlier this month, but they were emotional, they were internal. You know, and some of this stuff is, I mean, you get these Cancer planets, very emotional, very internal, but you've got the square to Aries that Venus is making, Mercury, you know, so I think a lot of it's not as internal now, and especially with Venus in a square with Uranus. I feel like as to where the stuff that was going on was internal, everything had to gestate. We had to think about it. We had to process it. Inside, I think now some of the stuff inside is starting to come out a little bit. Okay, and people are starting to say, well, I thought about, and then this is the end of the day into tomorrow. Well, I thought about some things, thought about that, and now you know, maybe this is what I want instead in order for me to feel comfortable, to find the comfort I want. So I think there are some of those conflicts that can come up in regards to your relationships and money. You know, I did say yesterday, sometimes I just get to talking. I wasn't planning on talking about all that yesterday, but I did say, I was like, this is a good time if you want to nurture and nest. And I don't know if that's entirely true. I think we want to. I think we want to protect ourselves. We want to nurture. We want to nest under this alignment. But I think it's very hard for us to find that, to be able to take care of the things, to count our money. I talked a lot about yesterday. I think it's very hard. I think we want to do that, but we can't. We can't, because other people are saying, well, I need you to do this. And I decided I want to do this instead. And I'm sorry, you know, and all of a sudden you're trying to be comfortable and you've got an unexpected expense going out and unexpected this. So I think it's hard to do it. And then when we do finally put everyone out and we're like, you leave, you know, I'm just gonna take all my money and I'm just gonna sit on it and put it in a safe in my home, and I'm just gonna lock everyone out from being in my presence. And then you get alone and you realize, oh, now I'm alone. You know, in my effort to protect myself from bad influences, I then ruined my chance to have any positive influences as well. So I think it's like this really uncomfortable thing where it's like, man, like I really want to, with these aspects, like do some things. There are things I really, really want to do, but in order for me to feel comfortable in the way that I need to feel comfortable, maybe I can't do the things that it is that I want. Or maybe needing to change some things unexpectedly, or maybe as you're trying to be comfortable, unexpected things coming up. So I do think that this is just like an interesting alignment that could bring up some very conflicting desires in a lot of ways that we're just trying to figure out that may not quite get met in the way that we want. Some uncomfortable things coming up with relationships, which is so interesting because the moon is in such a good spot early on in the day, very cerebral, and then all of a sudden we get hit with some emotional stuff towards the end of the day that I think needs to be processed. So yeah, so this is very, very interesting. You know, this is why I keep thinking, I mean, especially looking at the astrology, I know Uranus is going to come towards the end of this year. It's going to square the nodes, major unexpected events for all of us, huge upsets. But I look at this solar return for me and I'm like, something unexpected. That's why I'm like, an unexpected move, something is going to come up for me for sure, because this is not the kind of solar return for me personally that's going to lend myself to like building my business and watching it grow. I mean, I think it will grow under this alignment, and in my solar return, the new moon's going to be in the 10th house of my solar return, which is the opposite kind of what's happening here. But so it's going to be in the 10th house. So I don't think this is going to be the kind of solar return that's like, I'm going to steadily and slowly build and build and build. It's going to be like, I'm trying to build, I'm succeeding with the sextile, and then all of a sudden something unexpected comes up with relationships, with money that goes on, that I think will be very, very interesting of like, how do I do it? I almost feel like sometimes with this too, it's like we're getting that sense of stability in our life that we want, but in order to get the comfort that we want, that we need, it's like, we have to let things get uncomfortable before they can get comfortable again. We have to, with this alignment, especially with Venus and the square to Uranus, we're trying to be comfortable, but in order for us to have the life that we want, we need to almost get everything out in the open. We need to kind of say what's on our mind a little bit. We need to break free from some old situations, have some unexpected things that can come up so that everything can get out into the open and then finally settle again in the way that it's meant to be. And I do think that things will ultimately fall into place in the way that they're meant to be, because next week, after this like not good stuff, like Venus is going to move on top of the North Node, which I think is going to bring very positive resolutions, more peaceful resolutions than what's happening this week. I think this week there's like a lot of stuff going on. Well, I want this, but I don't, but I need this, you know, that's going to be kind of hard. And then I think next week it's like, oh, okay. Wow, that kind of worked out. So it's almost like this week we need to let things get messy. We need to let things fall apart so that next week they can come back together without us feeling like there's something missing, there's something weighing on our hearts that we haven't said. So I think that's a lot of what is going on in the astrology. And for me this next year, I'm trying to bring everything together, but before everything can come together, and of course my channel, my business being a big part of it, things are gonna fall apart a little bit first maybe, and be a little bit in disarray. So we'll see. Other stuff going on. We also have Mars in the South Node. I've talked about plenty of times, things from the past, frustration, that things aren't quite working out, needing to be patient, dealing with old things from the past, and just kind of wait as how some other stuff works itself out, even though the Venus in the square with Uranus, especially towards the end of the week, can bring some unexpected things up. Okay, we're eventually going to have to make choices about the things that come up late today and into tomorrow, because Mercury is going to oppose Saturn by the end of the week. But I think that I think that right now it's just a matter of letting things get crazy, especially towards the end of the day and into tomorrow, before we can make the choices on Saturday and then find things clean themselves up a little bit next week. And then the last thing that I'll mention, Jupiter in a trine with Neptune. So again, lots of things emotionally going under the surface. We're just trying to, I think, straighten things out emotionally, internally, so that we can get right with ourselves before we can move on once again. And I think we're just kind of waiting things right now. We're just trying to let things sink in, let things hit home, and get familiar with everything that's occurred the past 2.5 years before we can move forward again. And as we're waiting for everything to hit home with us, I think we're working things out emotionally with Mercury moving into Cancer, which is going to be the ruler of the new moon. We're working everything out emotionally. We're figuring out what other things we need to change, to break free from, to rearrange, so that we really can have that emotional comfort that we ultimately want. All right. So that's what I've got there. Your card for the day is Strength Upright. This card to me is all about finding your inner strength, obviously. And this card I always do see is not about like brute strength. This isn't about forcing things. If things aren't going your way, it's not about forcing them down people's throats and making them happen. And this is about using your inner strength. I said that. About getting things done through, you know, it's like, do I want to say diplomacy with Venus in such a hard spot? But I do want to say it is about using your heart, especially with Mercury in Cancer. If you have something uncomfortable that comes up, especially towards the end of the day, I see the beginning of the day being very good. I think if something comes up towards the end of the day and into tomorrow, it's really all about like letting your emotions show. Again, being vulnerable. I always see this card, vulnerability being your strength, I think is really, really going to be the key here, especially because this card, it's like a woman taming a lion. I always say this. It's not like she doesn't have like a uniform on. She doesn't have like any protective gear. She's just being herself. She's being very gentle, petting this like really intense creature. Like a lion can kill her. And instead of her just being like, I'm scared of this lion and I need to fight and protect myself, she's like, you know what, I'm just gonna be myself. I'm gonna be loving, I'm gonna be caring, I'm gonna nurture this animal. And you know what, it works. Sometimes, what does my mom say? There's like some phrase, you can get more bees with honey than with vinegar or something. Yeah, so it's just like, I think if there's a problem today, which there could be, us wanting to feel comfortable with something not being quite right, it's not about forcing your way through. It's about saying, look, this is what I really feel. This is what I really want. This is what I'm really sensitive about. Can we work around this? And I think if you can let some of that come out today, and more specifically the end of today and into the rest of the week, when I think things could get more intense as these aspects come more exact, if you can let that out, I think by next week you're going to find that all of a sudden you're going to get a handle on some of these crazy things in your life unexpectedly that could happen in the next few days. Personally, maybe publicly, globally, we'll see what goes on there. I know I'm super interested in that because I'm like, I don't know, I actually kind of like some of these aspects for like coming up with solutions to problems, to feeling better about things, especially at the beginning today about communicating. But I do feel like, especially because I'm thinking about all the stuff going on with Trump and North Korea, I do feel like there could be some things that could come up that could be, well, wait a minute, this is what I want instead, you know, and I feel this way and I need this and I don't know about that, but I do think that there can be yeah, I don't know. I just like the North Node next week. I do think that there can be some positive resolutions, or at least some things that are meant to happen that we've been waiting to happen for quite some time with the North Node stuff happening. All right, so that's what I've got for you. Thank you so much for watching my horoscope. If you like it, please like it on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and I will talk to you later.